Rabbi Joseph Soloveitchik makes the observation that dialectic in Judaism is not like dialectic in Hegel. Okay, before your eyes roll, right? Dialectic in Hegel means I have one pole, that's the thesis, I have another pole, that's the antithesis, and then I try to create a synthesis. In Jewish dialectic, Soloveitchik suggests, we have one pole, that's the thesis, another pole, that's the antithesis, and then good luck to you. Hold them.
Rav Simcha Bonham, a Hasidic rabbi, would say that a person should carry around a piece of paper in each pocket. One that says, Bishvili nivra ha'olam, for me, the world was created. And on the other one, it says, Anochi afar ve'efer, I am dust and ashes. For me, the world was created. I am dust and ashes. And that you should reach into your pocket and take out the one that you need to see. In a time in the industrial world where what we see of one another virtually is so finely curated, people feel isolated and anxious and unseen and not good enough. Being in community helps us remember what it feels like to be human.
Community has never been so important to me as when we've needed healing. When my third son was born with cystic fibrosis, and the community rallied around in ways I couldn't even have imagined. In the middle school, we say the prayer for the sick. And sometimes the students will say my son's name, and it's deeply touching to have that space to be able to just hope, and hope with others is really important to me and to my family.
When you look at Jewish life and you look at Jewish ritual, how many of the practices in Judaism can you do when you're alone, right? You need a minyan. You need 10 to do a full service. You need 3 to have a mizuman for Birkat HaMazon. You need multiple people at your seder, right? You need a shofar blower and someone to hear the shofar. But if a community, a society, let's say, a society is made up of individuals who never see themselves as part of society, but as strictly individuals, then there is no community.
There's a reason why in our ancient tradition there was a thing called sacrifice. Not that I'm advocating for that kind of sacrifice today, but by saying you have to give something fully of yourself in order to gain, you understand that you're making an investment. That part of what we're doing is breaking down self so that we can be of service to the world, and at the same time honoring the beauty of self and its wonder. And I think I love the fact that our tradition holds a place to let us contemplate that.
Yesterday, I was teaching Ve'ahavta l'recha kamocha, which is love your neighbor as yourself. There's a Talmudic story about 2 people traveling in the desert. There's a canteen of water, only enough for, there's not enough for both of them to drink and to survive. So this one rabbi comes along, Ben Patora, the son of Patora, and says, you should each drink a bit of that water. How can you take it all for yourself? What kind of world would we live in if you drank that all yourself? Until Rabbi Akiva comes along and says, no, you drink it all yourself. There has to be a you, there has to be a self. You have to be whole and healthy first on your own before you can take care of someone else.
The reference point is still you. Ve'ahavta l'recha kamocha, love your neighbor as you love yourself. Do this because you love yourself. And don't do unto others as you would want done unto you. You're the reference point, figure it out from there. So there isn't this abdication of self, abdication of need. You actually have to deeply know and deeply love yourself to truly fulfill love loss.
The world in which we live, we don't have opportunities to access what is whole about us, our sacredness and our wholeness, integrity, and that it needs to be brought out and found. That's also a Hasidic idea of what's called pnimiyut. It's often defined as inwardness, but it means that where's God in the world? God may be in the birds that are chirping, whatever. But he says, no, God's in here, all right, and it's hidden. Is that when you talk about one person's pnimiyut, it asks you to try and see it in another.
Just recently, my son, who's 9, said something to me about how he thinks about something in the Torah. And it's something I really disagree with. I don't want him to think that way. And there was this part of me that thought, I should correct him. And I had this moment where I thought, you know what, actually, just ask him some questions about what he thinks. Learn about him. Don't force him to be a carbon copy. When Martin Buber was young and he wrote, his classic book, I and Thou, he says, before we have a relation, there has to be what he calls, I think, a primal setting at a distance. I can't have a relationship with you until I acknowledge that you're not me and I'm not supposed to control you. I mean, what does it mean when the Talmud imagines that every Jew who stood at Mount Sinai heard the divine voice somewhat differently? It's saying you're not me and I'm not you.
I think it's so necessary in the world that we live in to understand yourself in context and be in that question of how do I balance and also understanding at there are times when I do have to prioritize my own needs, and there are times when I have to prioritize the community's needs or the global need, and that's okay. All of those things can be okay. My story matters, and my story matters in the larger context of a Jewish people. How is my voice going to help build, strengthen, be a part of, be in conversation with the voice of Jewish tradition, Jewish history, Jewish peoplehood?